Okay, I'm going to go live in just a moment here. Just getting some final prep work done. I'm running a little bit behind. As soon as I get somebody in the chat, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll get to the minute point and then we'll go ahead and get started. One. Okay, let's go ahead and stop the music. All right, welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Sanderson, and welcome to episode number 122 of the WMAC Report regular show where we go over everything going on within the world of women's mixed martial arts. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about boxing versus MMA. What can MMA learn from the venerable sport of boxing? What can MMA learn from the sweet science of fisticuffs? There's definitely a few things we can learn. I actually did this topic way back in 2019. And I got to say, I was trying to think of some new things to come up with, but I think this is mainly going to be a rehash. But considering that was way back before I was doing this format as it currently is now, I think this will actually be a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and talk about, what MMA can learn from boxing. There's some things probably that boxing could learn from MMA as well. Before we get into anything else, we've got to talk about this past weekend's fights. Now, did a weekend recap on Sunday where I went more in depth. So if you want, you can go check that out. But I am going to go over the results for this past weekend's fights because it was a huge fight weekend. We had UFC Fight Night Columbus, and then we had 1X. I was exhausted. That's why it took me so long just to put out 3 measly individual fight review videos. Let's get into this. So first up, going to Abu Dhabi for UAE Warriors 28. Had a couple of ladies bouts. First up, at Flyweight, Dakota Chava defeated Paula Christina via unanimous decision. Chava climbed to 5-0. Christina fell to 5-1. Listen, if you're not keeping up with Dakota Chava, you're missing out. This lady is a very exciting. She's someone you got to watch. I expect her to get the call up to the UFC probably very soon. Definitely by the end of the year. Didn't get a finish in this one, but trust me, this young lady on the right-hand side here, she's going places. Gotta watch out for her. Enlarge this. Then up in the co-main event, we had a flyweight championship where Corrine Laframboise defeated Carolina Jimenez via submission due to triangle choke. 4 minutes, 13 seconds of the first round. Laframboise climbed to 8-4. Jimenez fell to 7-1. So Corrine Laframboise getting it done in the first round, capturing a championship, and doing it against an undefeated fighter. Might want to keep an eye on Corrine Laframboise too. So she climbed to 8-4. Not exactly the shiniest record, but certainly one to keep an eye on, especially if you can take an undefeated fighter and beat him in less than a round and finish him too. So then we move on to Saturday. Actually, that was on Saturday as well, was UAE Warriors, but going a little bit out of order. We're going to one championship. 1X had 3 ladies bouts. First up in the 1 atomweight division. All of these were actually in the 1 atomweight division. But first up, Jhin Raison defeated Itsuki Hirata via split decision. Raison climbed to 8-2. Hirata fell to 5-1. So Itsuki Hirata facing defeat for the first time. I think this fight is going to open up a lot of eyes to the Itsuki fans. I was seeing things about her that I was taking a lot of heat for. But but I think this fight really exemplified that. This young lady, she's a bit of a specialist here, a bit one-dimensional. And I think this really opened some people's eyes onto just how one-dimensional she can be. Because what does she do? She almost immediately tries to close the distance. She uses an overhand right to close the distance, opens with the overhand right, opens exchanges with the overhand right, just to get within distance to try to go for the clinch. And then as soon as she gets for the clinch, what does she do? She tries to go for a takedown. She's judoka. Then she wants to go straight to the scarf hold. And then from scarf hold, she tries to either get a submission from the scarf hold or TKO. And Jimenez just basically denied her. Particularly in the second and third rounds, just kept denying those takedowns, getting her own takedowns, and just being the better, overall, well-rounded fighter was Jimenez. So I got to give Jimenez some good credit here. A lot of people didn't think she deserved her win over May Yamaguchi. That was only a little bit before this, like less than 2 months, if I recall correctly. But Jimenez getting it done, setting Itsuki Hirata back a good step back. So very nice win there for young Shadow Cat. But Android 18, back to the drawing board. And you know what? This is exactly what Itsuki Hirata needed. She needed to be set back. She needed a fighter who was going to come in here and go and basically just shut down her game. Because now she knows that she has to really work on improving her game. They say you can still learn from losses, but you're going to learn from the losses more. They say you can learn from wins, but you learn more from the losses. And I think this is going to be the loss that Itsuki Hirata really learns from and really starts to make some improvements to her game overall here. Hope so, because she is an exciting fighter. She's a charismatic fighter. She has a good fan base. So if she can learn from this and improve and come back as a better overall fighter, not just relying on the same things, and come back a more technical fighter, not trying to just muscle her way through everything, then she can definitely come back, and make a lot of improvements. Then the very next fight, we had the big rematch. Sahih versus Denise Zamboanga 2. Ham defeated Zamboanga via unanimous decision. Ham climbed to 25-8. Zamboanga fell to 8-2. This is basically night and day from their first fight back at One Power in September. The first fight was razor close, razor thin. Could have gone either way. Ham came through with the split decision. This time, Ham didn't really leave any doubts, and we saw some new dimensions to her game. We saw her not only just stop the takedowns of Zamboanga, we saw her reverse them and then implement her top game, which is something we rarely, if ever, get to see from Sahih. Zamboanga, this is another one. She's got to learn from this loss. She's kind of kept living in denial after the last fight. And it's like, well, you went life or death against a fighter that was off for almost 2 years. So now you're rematching that same fighter who's coming in fresh, coming in off of some recent activity. And she basically blew you out of the water. So now this is time for Denise Zamboanga to learn. I think her corner needs to learn from this fight as well. So then we go to the main event, Atomweight Championship. Angela Lee, the champ, retains her title, defeating Stamp Fairtex via submission due to rear naked choke. 4 minutes, 50 seconds of round 2. Angela Lee likes these buzzer beater finishes. That's for sure. Can't remember if I mentioned it. Yeah, Angela Lee climbed to 11-2. Stamp fell to 8-2 overall. Angela Lee was in serious trouble in the first round. You can go back and watch, and you can watch the clips on Instagram and Twitter and whatnot, but Stamp had Angela in serious heat in the first round. Angela came in, kind of barreling, and Stamp did a pow, like nice hook to the kidney or the liver that had Angela in serious trouble, backed all the way across the cage, bent over like this. Listen. Had that been any other fighter, that fight would have been finished. The fight would have been done. The referee would have stepped in. Gave Angela time, and Angela was able to come back and just absolutely dominate the rest of that round and completely dominate the second round en route to the finish. Angela Lee coming back after almost 2.5 years away, came in picked up exactly where she left off. For Stamp, it's a setback, but not a major one. I mean, she knows that she can go in there and possibly finish Angela again. And honestly, this time Stamp, I think, really exposed a big weakness in Angela's game here, was that she leaves the body open and it's vulnerable. So, bit of a step back for Stamp, but she'll probably take take a tune-up fight and then get right back in the mix. Aaron Gordon in the chat said, "Let's go." He was actually early again. And then says, "I've been waiting for this conversation. I honestly think that boxing has so many flaws, but we don't talk enough about all the amazing things boxing has done over MMA." Definitely more of an MMA fan, I'm guessing he's saying. Then we move to UFC Fight Night Blades versus Dawkins, also known as UFC Columbus. Had 3 ladies bouts. First up, Sarah McMahon defeated Carolosa in a bantamweight bout via unanimous decision. McMahon climbed to 13-6. Hosa fell to 15-4. This was just another time. This is a young up-and-coming fighter taking on a very experienced veteran and just taking that step back afterwards. McMahon put on a vintage performance here, kind of turned back the clock a little bit. Showed us the wrestling that she's come to be known for, and did a good job of it, and able to just really shut Carolosa down. For Carolosa, this is a learning experience. She can hopefully learn from this and come back stronger and better, because, I mean, she's 27? Yeah, she's only 27. Carol's going to be the future of this division. Like, McMahon is still here at 40, 41, but Hosa at over 10 years young, 14, 15 years younger, she's really the future of this division. So she can learn from this, make the necessary improvements. I mean, she's already a fun fighter to watch. She's already very good. Just take this experience, learn from it, come back better. Next up, move down to flyweight. Manon Fiorot on the right-hand side there, defeating Jennifer Maia via unanimous decision. Fiorot climbed to 9-1. Maia fell to 19-9. Good performance here by Manon. Really just was able to shut down Jennifer Maia, especially with that side kick to the stomach, utilizing it almost like a jab. Really, Maia has no side-to-side movement. So as long as she kept coming forward, Manon just put that, side kick, that push kick out there, and was able to just keep Maia exactly where she wanted her to be. Manon beating the number 4 ranked fighter. Of course, Maia did take this on short notice, 3 weeks notice. So a bit of an asterisk next to it, but still a good performance there by Manon Fiorot. Then we move to the co-main event, also at flyweight. Alexa Grasso on the right-hand side there, defeating Joanne Wood via submission due to rear naked choke. 3 minutes, 57 seconds of the first round. Grasso climbed to 14-3. Wood fell to 15-8. Grasso getting her first submission win ever. First finish in the UFC. First finish since 2014. Got to see a new side of Grasso's game, really putting it all together now. I will say I did like that Joanne came out aggressive. We never see that from her, so that was very different, but made a big mistake in that she went for a spinning back fist and just allowed Grasso to grab on the body lock with one arm, grabbed wrist control with the other, spun Wood around, pulling her to the ground and taking her back, getting the choke. Really nice performance there from Grasso. For Joanne, it's getting near the end for her. We got KOTR in the chat. Welcome. Look, can't remember if you're new or not, but he says, imagine all the fighters that would benefit from a good jab. A good jab is rare in MMA. I get that it's easier to get caught, but we've seen what a great jab can do in MMA. Ooh, that is one I have to add to the list. Thank you, KOTR. Jab fundamentals. Or jab/fundamentals. Yeah, jab is criminally underutilized in MMA. Criminally. And we've seen what, and like you gave a good example, GSP just absolutely jabbed Koscheck to death. Koscheck was never the same after that fight. And did it all with the jab. So then we move to final event from last week. No, second to last event of last weekend. UAE Warriors 29 happened on Sunday. So UAE Warriors had like 3 events, 3 days in a row last weekend. Big weekend for them. But at Flyweight, Hasna Gaber defeated Sabriya Senghol via unanimous decision. Gaber climbed to 4-1. Senghol fell to 2-3. I'll give Sabriya Senghol credit. You know, she's still new to MMA, very new to MMA, but she's not giving up. Like she's a kickboxer. She moved over from kickboxing. Bellator kind of pushed her into an MMA fight against Denise Kielholtz at the last moment. And we talked about that story before. But Bellator kind of like did her dirty a little bit. But she didn't give up on MMA. She's like, you know what? I'm going to keep trying to improve in MMA. And she doesn't need to. You know, she does well in kickboxing as it is. She's a bit of a celebrity in Turkey, in her home country. Like, she doesn't need to do MMA. But she's keeping at it. And she's having mixed results so far. But she's keeping at it. So I got to give her credit for that. As to Gaber, I had not heard of her before now. She came in 3-1. She came in off of a submission loss. And gets a decision win over Senghol. So the UAE Warriors events are all on UFC Fight Pass now. If you want to go watch those, you can go watch them. And then also on Fight Pass on Sunday, we had Fury FC 59. A strawweight bout, Melissa Odessa Parker defeated Celine Haga via submission due to rear naked choke, minute 48 seconds of the third round. Parker climbed to 3-1. Haga fell to 13-18. I don't know what Celine Haga kept trying to go for an ankle lock or some kind of leg lock. And was just leaving herself really undefended. And I'll tell you what, Melissa Odessa, she's got power in her hands. She comes from boxing, and she's the IBO champion, I believe, in her weight class. She has absolute power in her hands, and she's going to be a problem at strawweight. She was supposed to be on the upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter at flyweight. Ended up having to drop out due to, I think she didn't get all of her medical paperwork in time. So she had to drop out, but took a quick fight again. If she keeps up with MMA, she's going to be a serious problem at strawweight. So that is it for this past weekend's fights. So let's get into the news. We've got a lot of news to talk about, a lot of fight announcements, etc. So let me get the notebook out here. This is going to take a little while. All right, first up, UFC 275 goes down June 11th in Singapore, and they added flyweight championship with Valentina Shevchenko, the champ, welcoming the challenger, Taila Santos. That should be a good one. I think Santos is going to be like one of the first credible threats to Shevchenko in a while. I don't know if she wins it. Probably not, but I think she'll at least put forth a good effort in it. They also added a strawweight bout, Na Liang taking on Silvana Gomez Juarez. That should be a good fight while that lasts. I definitely see a finish coming in that one. And then Bellator London, it goes down May 13th. They added a strawweight bout. Kiara Penko taking on Lanchana Green. So, Bellator always putting on strawweight, the lone strawweight fights on their European cards. Then Raison 35 goes down April 11th in Japan. Super Atomweight Championship bout. Ayaka Amasaki taking on Seika Izawa for the second time. Last time was on New Year's Eve. Izawa upset Hamasaki in a non-title bout. This time the rematch is for all the marbles. I can't wait for this one. Can't wait for it. And then UFC 274 goes down May 7th. We've got a flyweight bout. Tracy Cortez taking on Melissa Gatto. Ooh. That's a dangerous fight for Tracy Cortez. Gatto is scary. And then got someone a date change here. So the UFC flyweight fight between Miesha Tate and Lauren Murphy has been pushed back to July 2nd in Las Vegas. I think that fight was supposed to go on in May, but now it's getting pushed back to July. I believe that's International Fight Week as well. And UFC 274, we got another fight from 274. It's actually going down in Phoenix, Arizona. We got the strawweight bout, the long-awaited rematch, 7 years in the making. Strawweight championship, the champ Rose Namajunas welcoming Carla Esparza, the challenger. First time they met, Esparza walked away the inaugural strawweight championship. And this time, she's the challenger against Rose. Should be a good one. Then UFC has a fight night on May 14th. They added a flyweight bout. Katlyn Chookagian welcoming Amanda Hebos to the flyweight division. Hebos did fight at flyweight once before in the UFC. She took on Paige Van Zandt. That wasn't like a real. That was a one-off. We all knew that was going to be a one-off. Then we got another bout for Rizin 35 on April 17th. A super atomweight bout. Kana Asakura taking on Satomi Takano. So Takano is the current Shudo super atomweight champ. Dethroned the previous one, Mina Karobi. She's taking on perennial contender Asakura in this one. That should be a good bout too. And then boom, Ares FC in France. Big time supporter of the ladies divisions, and you can watch them on Fight Pass. Ares 5 has 3 ladies bouts. A bantamweight bout between Zaira Dishikova and Giselle Mojeda. A flyweight bout, Astia Miri taking on Marjorie Lamoulac. And then a featherweight bout, Marisa Locke taking on Carolina Sobek. So we got 3 ladies bouts on April 16th for Ares 5. Then, the next month, Ares 6 on May 20th, we've got 4 ladies bouts on Ares FC 6. A bantamweight bout, Daria Zalesnyakova taking on UFC veteran Liana Jojua. So Jojua is back. A flyweight bout, Clara Risignuola taking on Natalia Bazinska. Another flyweight bout, Alexandra Tekina taking on Megan Morris. I watched Alexandra Tekina's debut fight at Ares, I guess it was Ares 4. One punch power. And then a strawweight bout, Fabiola Padrani taking on Karina Chaplinskaya. So definitely keep an eye on Ares FC in the next 2 months on UFC Fight Pass. Then Bellator's 279 goes down April 23rd. We've got 2 bouts here. A flyweight bout, Randy Field taking on Mariah Miller. And then this is what I'm excited for. Featherweight bout, Janae Harding taking on Diana Silva. Love me watching some Janae Harding. And then Diana Silva is going to be a good opponent for her too. Then UFC 276 again goes down July 2nd in Vegas. Added a flyweight bout, Jessica Ai taking on Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill getting another chance to move up. Jessica Ai, though, gets a chance to prove herself against a rising prospect here in O'Neill. Last time that Jessica Ai really took on a rising prospect, she managed to put the brakes on Viviane Araújo. So Jessica Ai been on a losing streak since then. But the last time she did take on a rising prospect, she put the brakes on her for a little while with Araújo. So I think a lot of people are going to take Casey O'Neill, and probably rightfully so. But I don't think we want to count out Jessica Ai in that one just yet. Then UFC has a fight night going down June 25th. They added a strawweight bout. Jhin Fry taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. I like both of those fighters. I'm a big fan. I watch all their fights. Definitely going to tune in for that one. The submission prowess of Demopoulos taking on the more well-rounded skills of Jhin Fry should make for a fun bout there. Then Deep Jewels 37 goes down May 8th in Tokyo. The all-ladies promotion Deep Jewels. They added an atomweight championship bout. Saori Oshima taking on Moeri Suda. That's going to be a fun one. You know, two grapplers who are always looking to move forward and always on the attack. My only worry is that this could turn into an absolutely terrible kickboxing bout. Sometimes it happens when you got two high-level Well, Oshima is definitely a high-level grappler. Suda's starting to look like one. But when you have two grapplers in there that like to go for the attack all the time against each other, sometimes the bouts do devolve into really bad kickboxing bouts. I don't think that's going to happen with this one, though. But I'm excited. Oshima did just suffer a loss. Wasn't at atomweight. It was at 49 kilograms. But so she's coming back down a couple pounds to defend her title against Moeri Suda, who called for a title bout after her last win. And so she said, I want the title, and she's getting a chance at it. And Suda is a fighter who started off 0-2, and now she's had 5 straight wins, and she's only 17 years old. So definitely about to keep an eye on. Then UFC has a fight night going down June 4th, and they added a flyweight bout, Poliana Botelho welcoming Corrine Silva from the Dana White Contender Series to the UFC. Then UFC 273, we've got a fight change here. Aspen Ladd was supposed to be taking on Irene Aldana. Unfortunately, Aldana is out due to an injury, tore a ligament or pulled a ligament, some kind of ligament injury in her arm. There are pictures on her Instagram. She's got an arm brace on there. So Aspen Ladd will instead be taking on Raquel Pennington. Then Octagon 32 goes down April 9th in the Czech Republic. Got a strawweight bout, Monica Koklakova taking on Alessandra Vale. Want to keep an eye on Koklakova. Phenomenal Muay Thai. Absolute killer with that. But she was also the one that got that this what do you call it, the Scorpion Crush submission in Bellator last year or the year before. So keep an eye out for that one. Then Bellator 282 goes down June 24th in Connecticut. Alejandra Lara taking on Alara Joanne in the flyweight division should be good. And then final bit of news here. And I've got to do a video after this show talking about it. But Invicta 47 goes down May 11th. Location to be decided. Probably going to be Kansas City anyway. But the fact that they haven't said it yet makes me wonder, are they finally moving out of Kansas City for the first time in probably close to 5 years? It'll be exciting. I might be tempted to go if it's somewhere besides Kansas City because I'd like to go somewhere new. I'd like to go to an Invicta event again, but I'd like to go somewhere new. But that event is going to be headlined by a strawweight championship. The champ, Emily Ducote, welcoming the former atomweight champ to the strawweight division, Alicia Zapatella. I don't give Zapatella much of a chance, but we'll have to see. So that is it for the news for this weekend. So like I said, I warned you, a lot of news this week. Of course, some of that's several weeks old. Haven't done one of the WMMA reports in a while. So now we got to move into rankings here. So let's talk one championship rankings update. So here was last week's rankings before 1X. We had a champ at 1. We had a champ here, Angela Lee. Stamp at number 1, Zamboanga at 2, Ham at 3, Ritu Foga at 4, Mungbo at number 5. Let's see what the changes are. Big changes here. Ham moves up 1 past Denise from 3 to 2, where she should have been anyway, having beaten Denise already. Number 4, coming in, previously unranked, Aliona Grasso. This one's confusing to me. Why is Grasso at number 4? She's coming in. She hasn't fought since September at 1 in Power, where she lost to Stamp. So why is she at number 4 with no recent activity and coming off a loss? Make it make sense, people. Make it make sense. And then previously unranked Jhin Raison at number 5. I think she's earned that. She's on, I believe, a 3-fight winning streak is Raison. Let me check here. So Raison on a 3-fight win streak. Granted, all by decision, but yeah, I think she's earned that spot at number 5 at least. Also, just beating a previously unbeaten prospect as well. She's definitely moving herself into the title contention. But Grasso, that's a big mystery to me. Now, the 2 that they removed, Mungbo, I don't have a problem with because she moved up to 125 pounds. Tried her hand there. So I think if you move up or down a division, as soon as you fight there, you're out of the rankings in the previous division. So I have no problem with them removing Mungbo at number 5. But Ritu Foga was at number 4, and now she's unranked. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because she was on a 3-fight winning streak herself previously. Her most recent loss was in December to Stan Fairtex, the number 1 contender. And that was in the finals of the Grand Prix to decide the title challenger. So why remove Ritu Foga? That one's weird to me. That one doesn't make sense. Raw Hobbies says they put her 4 because they want to set up Rajon versus her. Possibly. And they don't want to, give risk either of them against Ritu. Could be. Ritu deserved number 4, I think. I think she deserves number 4. Yeah. Yeah, Rasohina at number 4. Don't get me wrong. I like Aliona Rasohina. But I don't see why she should be number 4 right now. So here we have UFC's rankings last week. UFC Flyweight. Keep an eye, especially the Flyweight. Keep an eye on them. Boom. Massive changes. Massive changes. So, nobody moves in that was previously unranked. But we got big moves up and some small to moderate moves down. The big mover here was Manon Fiorot, who defeated previously number 4 ranked Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia moves down to 6. Fiorot moves up 6 spots from 13 to 7. Now, personally, I would have Maia and Fiorot switch places here. I would put probably maybe Fiorot at 6 and Maia at number 7. The big thing for me, and a lot of people are mad that Fiorot is not automatically moved into number 4. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think you should automatically switch places with the fighters in rankings just because you beat them. Because just because you beat number 4 on a given night does not mean, and you're number 13, does not mean that you get to skip 12 through 5. Does not necessarily mean that you are better than 12 through 5. Rankings moves should be based on actual wins over a period of time, not just, boom, you beat a good fighter on a given night and then you automatically take their place, especially when said higher-ranked opponent comes in on 3 weeks' notice. But Jennifer Maia moves down from 4 to 2, numbers 2 spots. Tyler Santos moves up 1 spot from 5 to number 4. Alexa Grasso moves up 4 spots. She was previously ranked at number 9, and defeating Joanne Wood moved her up to number 4. Joanne Wood moves from 7 to 3, so she moves down 3 spots. So big move for Grasso, moving all the way up to number 4. That's a bit of a move up 4 spots past where your opponent was too. That's a bit of a move based on height as well, for sure. What other moves are there? Araujo moved down 2 spots from 6 to 8. Andrea Lee moved down 1 from 8 to 9. Jessica I moved down 2 spots from 10 to 12. And Casey O'Neill moved down 1 spot from 12 to 13. Cynthia Calvillo staying in place there, but not for long, because her next bout is at strawweight. So as soon as she has a fight at strawweight, Cynthia Calvillo, she'll actually be removed. And then Jessica Andrade has a strawweight fight coming up too. So she'll be removed soon enough from the rankings. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of big shakeups here at flyweight. Of course, with Grasso and Fiora making the biggest moves. But like I said, Maya only moved down 2 spots. I think she should have moved down more than 2 spots, losing to someone that much lower ranked than her. Fiora making big moves. Honestly, I would have Maya at number 8. Number 8 or number 9. And then I would have Araujo at 8 or 7. Or not Araujo, Fiora at 8 or 7. And then move the rest of them around based on that. And Grasso probably should be number 5 based on beating the previous number 7 fighter. But I definitely saw some Manon Fiora fanboys absolutely butthurt over these rankings. I'm not going to try to justify the UFC's rankings moves, really. I mean, I thought about doing a video giving my take on it and, trying to guess and speculate why they would do that, but I just wasn't in the mood for it. I mean, I can kind of see why they made those moves. Should Maya still be above Fiora? No. Should Fiora have moved up 6 spots? No. Maya should have moved down more spots than she did, for sure. 3 weeks prep or not, you lose to a lower fighter that much lower ranked than you, you definitely should have moved down more spots than that. So that is it for the rankings updates. Now, I'm going to take that banner off. Oh, 1 sec. Let's talk boxing versus MMA. Specifically, what can MMA learn from boxing? So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is a topic I covered all the way back in 2019. And I decided to bring it back, 1, because I was just having a hard time coming up with something to talk about. But 2, I really wanted to bring this back and talk about it some more because, 1, my audience has grown a lot since 2019. It's more than tripled since then. Grown a lot. But also, I think this is a very important subject to talk about because I think that there are things that MMA can learn from boxing and vice versa. But mostly I want to talk about what MMA can learn from the much older sport of boxing that has been around, done that, seen it all, and just boxing has everything down to a science. Like, it's called the sweet science of fisticuffs, but also the promotion of boxing, the way things are run in boxing, the way everything is set up is practically down to a science, especially a promotion that does things the right way. You can get so much good done with the fighters and building them up, promoting them, stuff like that. And that's mostly what I want to talk about, is building up your fighters and promoting them. But what can you MMA learn from boxing? The first thing I want to talk about is grooming prospects. If you were to ask me which sport overall builds prospects better, grooms prospects better, I'm going to say boxing. Boxing believes in a slow build for their prospects. And you can't do this all the time. I'm not saying that MMA can do it exactly the way boxing does it. Like where you put them against 20 nobodies or 15 nobodies and then finally give them a step up in competition. But I'm talking about like the incremental challenges that boxing does put their prospects through. Boxing puts their fighters through incremental challenges. And that's something that MMA really, really needs to learn from. You'll see it so often where they give them a few easy fights in MMA, and then it's boom, right into a potential title contender fight. Or boom, right into a big step up in competition. Like they're cruising along, and then it's like, boom, fighters hit a wall because their step up in competition is way higher than what they've faced previously. Boxing, you really don't see that very often. In MMA, it's kind of common. And you see the UFC do it over and over and over again to prospects. Macy Barber, doing good. And then, boom, gets a big step up in competition. Hits the wall against Roxanne Modafferi. Or here's another one, Aspen Ladd. Gradual, just fighting regular fighters. And then, boom, gets a potential title eliminator against GDR, Jermaine Darandami. Big step back for her there, too. So, MMA just does not do as good of a job of building prospects. And I think the UFC is finally starting to learn to slow roll fighters a little bit. For example, on the men's side, Sean O'Malley. They were in no big hurry to put Sean O'Malley in against tough challenges for him. They tried it. Chito Vera. Boom, big step back. And what have they done since then? They've slow rolled him since then. So I think they learned from him there. I think they learned from fighters like, Chase Hooper as well, who just wasn't ready yet. So I think MMA, particularly the UFC, is starting to come around to this idea. One championship does it with their prospects. They slow roll them, give them just easy fights, and then finally give them a gradual step up in competition. And they've done it very well. Bellator kind of slow rolls their fighters, especially like their home-groomed prospects, like their home-built fighters that they build up from nothing, like Ali Malay, or looks like Sumiko Inaba is getting that treatment. Valerie Lovreda, they kind of learned with her. So, learned a little bit the hard way with her, but they're learning. So the first thing that MMA can learn from boxing is properly grooming your prospects. Second thing that MMA can learn from boxing, tune-up fights. Tune-up fights are crucial to the longevity of a fighter. I'm talking about you may take a long layoff because of injury or whatever. There's no reason for a fighter to come up from a long layoff, particularly a serious critical injury layoff, and step right back in against the absolute best of the best in their division. No reason for that. You're just setting that fighter up for failure again. Here's the biggest example I can think of, and I used this example back in 2019. It still holds true today. UFC ruined Ronda Rousey. Ronda came off her first loss against Holly Holm. Tremendously huge loss via knockout. And rather than give her a tune-up fight, rather than giving her a little bit step back in competition for her return fight, what do? They say, no, we got to put her right away for the title. She's got a challenge for a title right away. Well, the title had changed 2 times since then. It had changed hands twice. It was now in the hands of Amanda Nunes. And Nunes sent Ronda into retirement. UFC absolutely killed Ronda Rousey's career with that. And there's been other examples too where a champion or a former champion takes a long layoff due to injury or what have you, or maybe they just haven't been as active. And then first fight back, what do they face? An absolute killer. And it's not always just champions either. Sometimes it's like top contenders and or a rising prospect, like someone who's borderline title contender. But then they get injured, they get hurt, or they have to take a long layoff for a little while. And then they come back and it's like, boom, right in there against killers. And it kills the fighter's longevity. Boxers, they get injured. They come back. What do? They take a tune-up fight. Or a boxer faces several big fights in a row. What do? They take a step back. They take a keep busy fight, a stay busy fight, a tune-up fight, as it were. Why? Because if you face nothing but killer after killer after killer after killer, guess what? You burn out. A fighter is going to burn out. That's why the stay busy fights, the tune-up fights are crucial. Granted, MMA careers are generally shorter than boxing careers in general, but the injuries come a lot faster, a lot shorter. The wear and tear from MMA is a lot bigger than it is from boxing. So you've got to, when you have these good fighters, you've got to try to keep them around for a while. But to just have them face killer after killer after killer after killer, especially when they're fighting, or they're coming off an injury or something like that, you're going to kill their longevity. Now, there are some fans out there, they don't care. They don't care about individual fighters. They only care about what they want to watch. They want to see the best fight the best all the time. They don't want to see the tune-up fights. To me, I think those are the worst kind of fans. Because how can you say you want to see the best fight the best, but then you've got a fighter coming in off an injury? They're not necessarily coming in their best either to take on the best. That's just my take on it. So give fighters a tune-up fight when they're coming back from a serious injury. If they're coming from a long layoff, give them a tune-up fight. Or if they've been facing nothing but killer after killer lately, give them a stay busy fight. Give them a step down. Now, granted, it's MMA. Anything can happen. And sometimes those tune-up fights can bite you. I think that's a risk that's usually worth it, though. Number 3, in boxing, they don't have these big, huge fight gyms, these big, huge fight camps where you've got like 30, 40 fighters together. That's an MMA thing. That started, way back in the day with like Militich, the Lion's Den, and then through today you have like AKA, Jackson Wink, American Top Team might be the single biggest MMA gym/team in the world. You don't have that in boxing for the most part. I mean, you've got some fighters that train together, especially like Canelo's coach, I want to say Eddie Reynoso. He's got a bunch of fighters there. But it's nowhere near the size of like MMA teams. Nowhere near that. For the most part, fight camps in boxing are built around the boxer, an individual boxer. And I think MMA can learn from that. For example, in MMA, you might be preparing for a fight, but guess what? So is your teammate and your other teammate, and you're helping them, they're helping you. There are some upsides to that, in that you have some good regular training partners around all the time. And, they say iron sharpens iron. But at the same time, it's like, if I have a fight in May, you're one of my training partners, and you've got a fight in July. I'm at a different stage in my fight camp than you are in your fight camp. I might be ready I might be ready in my final week. It's going to be nothing but light training, say 25% sparring. Whereas you're at a stage where your fight's the next month or 2 months, you're still doing some heavy sparring. You're still going at it, like 75, 80%. I'm not ready for that. That could get me seriously injured. You need that heavy sparring, but I don't. So how are we supposed to be helping each other out? But if I have my own fight camp that is specifically tailored and built around me, then I have special sparring partners brought in, partners that are brought in specifically to mirror my opponent's style. If I'm facing a southpaw, I'm not going to be sparring against right-handed fighters. I'm bringing in southpaws to spar against. My fight camp is specifically tailored to my needs, tailored to get me ready for my fight at the time it's going to happen, and I don't have to worry about helping Pokemo Joe over there or John Smith over there get prepared for their fight too, because I'm focused on my fight. Now, outside of fight camps, like regular everyday training, I think, having those big teams is phenomenal. They're great. Just like they say, iron sharpens iron. And if you're constantly training with other good training partners, that's great. But when it comes to time for fight camps, boxing, I think, does it better in that it is fighter-specific fight camps. My throat's getting sore. Number 4, in boxing, the fighters are the stars. Nobody cares to watch top-ranked boxing. Nobody cares to watch PBC. Nobody cares to watch Matchroom boxing. They're tuning in to watch specific fighters. I might skip this weekend's top rank or Matchroom card because there aren't fighters on it that I want to watch. But in MMA, and the UFC has this down to a science. Really, it's practically monopoly. But in MMA, a lot of the time, the promotion is the star, and the fighters are just tools to help build the promotion. And this is mainly a UFC thing. In the UFC is the star. The fighters are there to help build up the UFC, not the other way around. Like, I don't consider Dana White to be a very good fight promoter. I don't consider him to be a good promoter of fighters. Dana White is the promoter of the UFC. He's the president. But he doesn't promote UFC fighters. He doesn't promote UFC fights. Dana White promotes the UFC brand. In UFC, it is the brand over the fighters. Whereas for boxing, it is always about the boxers. Now, there are exceptions in MMA. For example, one championship. They call themselves the home of martial arts. But for martial arts, you got to have the martial artists. And their fighters are the stars. When the fighter walks out to the arena, and I think this is kind of cheesy, but I think it does reinforce this. When a fighter is walking out to the arena, before they enter the arena itself, they walk through what one calls the Hall of Heroes. And it is these banners of their champions. And it's supposed to be like inspirational. But when they're also showing the fighter walking through that Hall of Heroes, guess what? You see the fighter themselves, and you see them walk past all of their champions. And the fighters themselves are the stars. They know that it's about fighters first. For Raison, for example, they know that it's not about Raison, the brand. It's about the fighters, the champions. The fighters come first. For Bellator does this well too. For me, this is mainly a UFC gripe. And I don't see the UFC learning from this or changing it, because the UFC's entire model is built around pushing the UFC first. But in boxing, it's the fighters are the stars. In the UFC, this is less about MMA. This is more about the UFC specific. But in UFC, it's the UFC is the star. And the fighters are just the tools to keep people coming back to watch the UFC. And finally, number 5, and thank you to KOTR for this idea, fundamentals. In MMA, you see so many fighters pulling out flashy stuff, flashy moves, when they don't even have a proper jab yet. So many fighters just want to keep adding more tools to their toolbox in MMA without actually learning how to use the tools that they have. Whereas in boxing, the good, proper boxing gym isn't even going to have you putting on gloves probably for the first week. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've heard people say they didn't put on gloves for the first month of training in a boxing gym because they're learning fundamentals. You don't need to have gloves on to learn to throw a proper jab. You don't. And how many fighters in MMA actually have a proper jab, a good, proper jab? Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. And there's so many different ways you can use that jab. You can use it moving forward. You can drive your opponent back with your jab. You're flicking it out there and hurting them. For example, in boxing, watch Triple G jab. Triple G is hurting fighters with their jab. He's knocking their heads back with the jab. Or GSP, like KOTR said. And thank you for this one. GSP versus Koscheck. GSP ruined Josh Koscheck as a fighter with nothing but a jab. Or the jab can be used defensively. If you're a long, tall, lanky fighter and you want to keep the fight at range, like because you don't want to let a fighter inside your range, you can use the jab. Just flick it out there, keeping fighters on the outside. That's just one good fundamental. Or like low kicks. You've got fighters now, they want to throw the low calf kick. It's like you don't even throw a good low kick to the thigh yet. You're not turning your hips over when you're throwing that low kick. And if you're not sure what I mean when I say turning your hip over, go watch a good Muay Thai fight. You'll see them when they kick. They're putting their hips into it, turning their hip over to land that low kick. But instead, they're going for spinning kicks, spinning back kicks, roundhouse kicks. And it's like, you can't even throw a good low kick yet. And you're trying to throw a spinning back kick. Fundamentals. You've got to master the fundamentals first. This past weekend, Joanne Calderwood threw a spinning back fist or spinning back elbow, whichever. It cost her the fight. That one move cost her the fight. You're busy trying to be fancy when the fundamentals she was applying earlier were working for her. And then she tried to get fancy. Cost her the fight. The fundamentals aren't always the prettiest stuff, but they work. The fundamentals win fights. That's like if you're a white belt in BJJ and you see a video on how to do a go-go plata. Guess what? Okay, cool. You watched a cool video. But you're a white belt. You can barely put in an Americana. You can barely put in, a scarf choke. You barely know the arm bar, and you're trying to, you barely know the triangle. And now you're trying to implement a go-go plata. If you need a good example of what a go-go plata is, watch Nick Diaz versus Takanori Gomi. It's basically like a modified version of a triangle choke. In boxing, they want you learning the fundamentals before you do anything else. And they drill those fundamentals over and over and over again. That's why you go into a boxing gym. A good boxing gym is going to have a wall covered in mirrors or several mirrors. There's going to be mirrors all over the place. Why? Because they want you drilling those fundamentals in front of a mirror so you can watch yourself. You're watching yourself throw the jab because the coach is going to have you do the jab in front of the mirror, and he's going to give you advice on how to fix little things. And as you watch yourself, then when you're drilling it, you watch yourself in the mirror, throwing the jab cross hook. The fundamentals, you've got to master those before you can move on to the fancier things. Or you got to learn footwork. Man, so many MMA fighters have absolutely trash footwork. That's very basic stuff. And you'll see fighters that drill footwork. They do little footwork drills, and then when it comes time to fight, it's like goes out the door. Probably because they're only drilling it for Instagram. Just saying. Probably only doing it for the gram. So fundamentals. And that's something boxing teaches that a lot of MMA coaches just aren't that great. And they let fighters get away with not learning the fundamentals. So those are the 5 biggest things that I feel that MMA can learn from boxing. So we still got a few people viewing. Any thoughts in the chat before we get going? So we've been going for about an hour. Nothing? All right, so we're going to get going. We're going to start closing down. Don't forget to hit that like button. That's what helps alert people that we are online. This was a bit of a short notice show. I wasn't sure I was going to get it done tonight because I came home. I took a nap. Went longer than I meant to. But hit that like button. Share the stream as well. And if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. WMMA Now, the best, most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.